Welcome back to the podcast. It's been a little while. We've got a really exciting one for you. A guest I have been months in the making of putting together this interview with. She is a professional meteorologist. She works in the news industry in the Denver market, and she has a business called Approachable Outdoors where she shares hikes for people of all different skill sets. She shares stuff about conservation, about weather, about everything you need to know to be an outdoor lover, because obviously we are headquartered in Colorado and that's what you do here. So without further ado, everybody welcome Kylie Bearse.
Hi.
Thanks for being on.
I'm so excited. We've been literally talking for so long that I'm so excited that we finally sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah, it's partly our fault. There's been several different people handling Kylie's scheduling between our busy teams, but we've been talking for like 9 months about getting on this podcast. So here we are. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so busy right now. I was just thinking. So I work full time in the morning. So I work from 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then I've been doing this fundraiser for Approachable Outdoors. And I have a friend who does a fundraiser while working full time and has kids. And I'm like, I don't know how you do it. I'm literally like right before here was packing up hoodies. I have another meeting after this. It's just been wonderful, but so busy.
Holy moly. When do you go to sleep? Well, wait, let's back it up.
Okay.
Tell us the origin story from like high school to now. When did you fall in love with the weather? When did you fall in love with Colorado? All of it.
That's a really great question. So I went I moved around a ton growing up. So I started high school in Chicago, finished in Arizona, hated Arizona, loved the seasons. Like that just didn't really work for me. And I kind of knew I wanted to do journalism. I was also a theater major for a little while, fell in love with Boulder when my dad, they gave me a scholarship. So my dad's like, let's go just look at it. Saw the Flatirons, fell in love. It was all over after that. Studied journalism. And while I was there, I really wanted to do broadcasting. And the only way to get on air was to do the sports broadcasting. And I don't know anything about sports. It was like they would write my highlights for me. I would try really hard. But I was like, well, no one does any sort of weather. So what if I do ski forecasts? Like that could be sports related, get me some on air time so that I can get some practice. And everyone then was like, oh, you should be a weather girl. And I hated it because when I grew up, weather girls were the jokes. Like they were, the people that they just dressed up and put them out there and they were the laughing stock of the news. And so I was like, no. I want to be like an anchor reporter. And then in my internship, I actually interned at 9 News and, I saw Becky Ditchfield, Kathy Saban, all these incredible women who were scientists and not just weather girls. And so I was a little bit more open to it then. And after my first job in Idaho Falls, I then went back to school for meteorology through Mississippi State. So for 3 years, I worked full time and went to school part time and then got my meteorology degree. Went to Salt Lake, went to Minneapolis, always wanted to come back to Denver. And now I'm here.
And you were good at science in school, I gather.
No, I really wasn't. I mean, I think I wasn't bad at it. I think that writing and reading came so easily to me that I was like, all right, that's just what I'll do. Like knocking out, I would start my essay the night before and then ace it with no problem and no effort. Science took some effort and I was really afraid to go to meteorology school and fail and not do well. And I really surprised myself by not only how much I really liked it, but how successful I was. I did not ace every class by any means. Thermodynamics was really hard. There were a lot of really tough classes in there, but I really enjoyed the science. And it was fun to challenge myself in that way, thinking that I could never have done a science degree. Now I'm like, oh, I wish I'd gone to like med school or done something like actually real with science, but I really enjoy it.
Right. So I do have a question about this because the Idaho Falls of it all. I'm going to give this as much tact as possible and talk from an economics perspective, but you can infer if you need to because you work in the industry.
Yeah.
So I went to a university that has a big broadcasting school. I actually studied advertising, but I did some broadcast production stuff.
Go to school?
And Washington State.
Oh, yes.
The Edward R. Murrow College of Communication. So
small name.
Here's the thing. 10, 15 years ago, if you wanted to get into news, you were going somewhere like a Ketchum, Idaho, and then maybe you would move up to a Bend, Oregon, and then maybe, Sacramento. But to get in a market like Denver, you'd be like in your late 30s, early 40s at best. And now it seems like there's a lot. I mean, even at your station, you've got, I don't know how old Katie Orth is, but there are people like in their late 20s, early 30s on the anchor desk.
Yeah.
And for the longest time in a top 20 market, at least, those people were all like in their 60s, 70s. And so I get that a bygone era and a bygone generation, some of those people just kind of stayed on the air forever and never left.
Yeah.
And there's kind of attrition now where there wasn't before. Somebody would be on the desk for 30 years, whereas now, maybe it's 5 or 10 because people are having lifestyle changes, families, whatever else. But do you see any cause behind the getting younger of talent on air? Maybe are they cheaper?
Definitely cheaper. That's something that the industry has been seeing that trend for a while now. I think there are more opportunities to be better younger. Like you can do a lot more with schools. Schools can have these broadcasting programs that they can put you through. And I'm not against people being young in big markets because my goodness, I was 25 in Minneapolis on the anchor desk and literally felt like every day I was going to get fired. I think that if you can train people and give them that experience, they have every right to be there as someone who, has been there for 30 or 40 years. But yes, the problem is, and I tell people this all the time, if they're young in the industry and they want to move up to their dream market right away, you've got to almost bounce around a little bit in order to get paid. Because if they get you cheap, you're going to stay cheap unless you're getting a substantial raise. So yeah, I think most of it's money. And then a lot of people people aren't staying in this business as long as they used to. They're not having those 40-year careers because, it doesn't pay quite like what it used to.
And this is a silly question, but I've never understood, why is there a sisterhood between Fox affiliates and NBC affiliates? Why do you walk around between two studios?
That's a great question. It's just the same ownership is kind of the simple answer behind it. So they're owned by the same company. And so, I think Channel 2 was around a lot earlier than Fox was. Fox is a much younger station. But yeah, eventually they just merged and there are literally two studios like across from each other. So if I want to go talk to Travis over on Channel 2, I just walk down the hall and then pop in. And you're on a totally different set, totally different feel. And they try and be really intentional about marketing and branding them separately so that they do feel different because we compete against each other. It's kind of weird to walk down the hallway and your competitors right there.
I feel like almost every market that I've lived and worked in had them the same, or at least they carried the same weather and traffic and field reporters. There's got to be something there. Wait, is your station the one with the weather beast?
Yep, we've got the beast.
Do you get to go out in the big rig?
I've never gone out in the big rig. I would love to. I've seen it in the parades and whatnot, but no, when I'm at work, I'm on TV. So I'm on TV for 6.5 hours straight. There's no time for me to go out and do something else. But yeah, no, we have a great weather team. Everyone gets along and there's a lot of respect, not even just within the Fox team and the, Channel 2 team, but Denver Meteorologists in general is a really, really awesome community. Everyone gets along and there's a lot of respect here amongst each other.
Okay, so for everybody out there that doesn't live in Colorado or doesn't know Kylie or myself, I guess you probably know me if you're listening to this. Denver has obviously a ton of weather and undulations. I think to Thursday we're supposed to drop like 40 degrees or something.
Yep.
But Kylie has a really cool persona here in town. And this is another question I want to ask you. When did it become so kosher for talent to have social media, and are you allowed to do whatever you want? You film stuff behind the scenes, getting your makeup done, walking around the studio, saying hi to people, happy birthday, weekends, whatever. But are you able to just kind of post whatever you want? Because you've got a pretty big presence on TikTok and on Reels.
So yes and no. There is no person who is overlooking what I'm doing and saying, you have to post this or you can't post that, or they're not checking it before. But there is very much understanding that you can't just post whatever you want on social media. You represent the station. I think a lot of times people get confused with influencers and people, they represent themselves. I also represent a bigger entity and a bigger group of people. So, you just have to be careful. And I'm very mindful of that. I have, pretty strict rules of if I even had 1 or 2 drinks, there's no drinking or there's no posting. I just wait until the next day and make sure, just because I think that it's very easy to get fired for posting something wrong on social media.
And doesn't it seem like a lot of people have a work account where it's them, the personality? Like yours is your personal account. Yeah. It's all pictures of mountains and trees and stuff, which is maybe what you post anyway. But they'll have KylieBearse.tv or something, where it's only their public appearances and their time at the station.
It's both. I think it totally depends. Like I share a lot of my life. I go behind the scenes, I think a lot more than most people do, because I really feel like that helps connect you with people. And I feel like you trust people more when you know more about them, when you feel like they're your friend. But I also understand there's a lot of parts of it that really suck when you share that much of your life. So I totally get the people that just specifically have work accounts. Fox in general, they've never mandated, dictated, oh, you've got to have this. I've worked at places where they want you to put the call letters in your handle, but it's changing. And it's always going to be changing. It's such a funny landscape in that way. But yeah, it's totally up to the person and what they want to do, which I think is really nice. Some places I've had friends and they literally would have leaderboards in the newsroom where they'd rank them based on engagement and based on likes and everything like that. And they said you had to have 3 Facebook posts a day or something, which doesn't make it, like, who would post 3 times a day?
Jeez.
Yeah. And so it didn't make a lot of sense. So it just depends on where you are. Thankfully, I've never worked at a station that's been quite that strict.
So, I got sidetracked when I wanted to ask you the next question. For everybody out there, Kylie's station has this gigantic truck that looks like the tornado hunters called the Weather Beast. And they send this poor guy, was it Jim Hooley? They send this dude out to the mountains like every morning in this truck to go wherever. Who knows how early they have to leave for this. So they can stand in front of a whitewashed background and you can't really tell where they are anyway. But the Beast is really awesome. It is like this gigantic truck, probably furnished by one of the local car dealerships. But if you ever see it, you'll know. So my question for you, working in a market like Colorado, you have live feeds from all of these ski resorts and you have access to this Department of Transportation computer systems. You have to track a lot of different contours, altitudes, areas. I mean, the 4 different corners of Colorado are like different microclimates. What is it like to cover a state with so much variability?
Oh, it's challenging, and it's challenging in a really fun way and sometimes a frustrating way. One good example is, we talk about the mountains versus the lower elevation spots. But even this morning, I got an email from a viewer because I'm saying, hey, we're mostly sunny. It's looking good. And then there's a little pocket that hadn't shown up on radar that was showing really thick cloud cover. And so they sent me in pictures. And I think that's really important. It's having this connection with the community where they do let you know. I'll say like, okay, it's showing rain here. Let me know if you're actually seeing that. But Colorado weather, you can't learn from meteorology school. Yeah, you get the basics, but like when I lived in Minnesota, I mean, big mid-latitude cyclones would come on through, and that was almost textbook. Here, the elevation and the terrain throws it all off, and you just have to learn by being here and by experiencing it. And any Met that's new to the market, I tell them, travel as much as you can, not just because Colorado is beautiful and really fun, but you have to go and look at those mountains and understand why the wind hits in a certain way, why we get such intense snow on this side, but maybe not on that side, why the passes can be so treacherous. You just have to go and see them and experience them in order to really understand the weather in Colorado, because it's challenging. It's fun, but challenging.
So you use a lot of social media and you connect with a lot of young people, and you are young and you're a public figure and you're out doing, I saw you were doing like a hamburger competition or something recently. Is that right?
I was judging a burger battle, so I had to try 19 burgers.
Oh, perfect. Love that. So do you feel like the use of social media, does the station love that you're big on social media because you can connect to a younger audience?
I don't really get a ton of feedback from them as far as, what I do on social media, which is good because that means I'm not in trouble or doing anything wrong. But I think that anytime you can reach someone new and a potential new viewer, a new person who can trust you, who may not even watch every day, but when the big event's going to happen, they're going to remember me from TikTok. They're going to remember me from Reels. But I hope they like what I'm doing. I enjoy it, but I certainly, I don't do it because anything's like mandated or anything like that. But I don't know. I mean, it's a really good question. I haven't really talked to them about what they like or what they don't like.
Well, so few people under the age of, I don't know, 45, probably 55, watch linear television, especially in the morning. And so they've even been saying things like all of Viacom's cable channels, VH1 and Comedy Central and MTV. I mean, other than like Rob Dyrdek and a couple of the like reunions of Jersey Shore, all of that stuff is completely reruns. I mean, there's no original content anymore. And they're talking about whether they're just going to roll those into the streaming service eventually, Paramount Plus, or if they just discontinue them. The contracts are huge. But the point I'm making is they say that young people are drifting away from full-length content, whether there's commercials or not. and taking news from Facebook and TikTok. And there is access to some things. I like to log on to Hulu in the morning and watch the World News Tonight with David Muir. You know, it's like a 15-minute digest of last night's. But I don't gather that there's probably that many young people that are seeing you at 9 o'clock in the morning in front of the green screen. So the fact that you put out your own videos of how the weather is going to be and the behind the scenes of what it's like to be a meteorologist, I bet they think you're doing a great job. They just don't tell you that.
I mean, hey, as long as they're happy, I'm happy. And I appreciate that. I do think that I really love embracing new social media and trying it. I think I was the first Denver meteorologist to try TikTok. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, and saw an opportunity there. And now there's a couple of other great ones that have joined in. But I like trying something new. So I hope that they're happy. And when it works, that's awesome. And sometimes it's not going to work, and we'll learn from it and try something new next time.
Right. Well, we are here to talk about Approachable Outdoors because this is the coolest thing ever.
Oh,
but I have to ask one more question.
Ask away. Ask away.
One of my favorite things that you post is the emails of when people talk shit. And there's been some really good ones when people decide that they think you have weird knees or you show your shoulders too much or whatever. How is that? And what's the funniest one you've heard?
Oh, did you see my recent one this week?
They said you were gaining weight?
Yes. Oh my gosh. We have a new set with all new camera angles and everything. I think the knees one was amongst the funniest ones, where it just said that I had the hideous knees. And I was like, I've literally never thought about my knees before. But, you know, like people, I get it, because I'll be watching TV sometimes and look up at someone and like, you have a thought, and maybe it's not the nicest thought, or you have a comment. But it is always super interesting that people will sometimes take the time out of their day to actually send that email and put so much thought into finding it. But yeah, I think the knees one's the funniest. Everyone gaining weight was funny because a lot of people are saying that with the new set, it just looks like we've all gained a lot more weight. But I like reading them because I think it's a good reminder for everyone to be kind, because you never know. I think if you do send these emails, you're kind of a sad person, and you're coming from a place where you're very lonely and you're very miserable and you're hurt, because I think hurt people hurt people. But it sucks sometimes. The one about the gaining weight, I was like, my jeans are a little tight, but nothing this bad.
Didn't it embellish for a while too? I've always held you in very high regard and thought that you were, and now you're not. It was like a couple paragraphs.
He had actually, it was kind of gross. He's like, I always ranked your legs amongst the best in Denver, and now I no longer the best. And I'm like, okay, you didn't need to include that fact. Nothing about that was like to help me or be productive. It was just to be mean and to be cruel, which sucks, but what can you do?
You would think that news people would say you look pale, or I don't like the clothes you're wearing. It's very weird that they single out your knees or your legs. I mean, is this dude in front of like a 90-inch TV? I just don't really get it.
At this point, I've been in this career for 11 years, and there's not a single part of my body that hasn't been called ugly. So it's just the way that it goes. People are going to say mean, nasty things. Again, they're probably pretty sad and lonely in their own life in order to pick that out. But then it was funny because this one did get to me this week, and I was texting with my cousins because I had this one email and it had just been getting me down. And I was like, do I look bad on TV? Am I feeling insecure? And my cousin reminded me, she's like, there are 600 positive comments on there telling you like the exact opposite of this. And she's right. You need to focus on that, but it's such a lesson, and we focus on that one that can really get to us and get under our skin versus the million nice people around us that are building us up and trying to be that person.
Holy moly. Okay, so when was this idea and the genesis of Approachable Outdoors? Why don't you start with the log line of what it is?
So Approachable Outdoors, it's kind of evolved a little bit, but essentially it's a hiking blog or a hiking resource website. And so if you're new to hiking, you want to find a hike, you want to learn, it's a place for that. But essentially it's all about taking the intimidation out of getting outside, because I think in Colorado in particular, there's this idea of you can't be outdoorsy unless you're climbing 14ers and you're backcountry skiing every weekend. And I didn't really identify with that type of person, but I loved getting outside. And I also just felt huge benefits when it comes to my mental health. Like that's something that I've been talking about, and the benefits of nature and getting outside, and more people are talking about that. So that's kind of the whole idea. But it just started from, I used to share my hikes that I would go on, and everyone would ask me where I was going, what I recommended, and they were all asking questions. And I was like, oh, maybe I can make this resource. And then during the pandemic, had the time and was hiking 2, 3, 4 days a week, which was amazing. Thank goodness I lived in Colorado for that time. And it's just grown into this really amazing community. And then last year we did our first fundraiser selling tank tops and t-shirts. This year I made it even bigger. We're selling hoodies and beanies and then having an in-person celebration on the 15th. So it's been really fun. I just been blown away at how it kind of naturally, organically grew and brought together a group of like-minded people who love and appreciate and respect the outdoors and also just find it really good for us mentally and physically.
So you've been posting for a long time on hikes. You obviously have a lot of friends who work in media and have cameras. You've got some really cool video blogs, but it seems like in the past couple of months, it's really like hockey sticked. I guess a hockey stick kind of goes down for a little while. It's like a parabola upward. Anyway,
Wait,
it's been increasing at a very steep curve very quickly. You've got like sponsors now and giveaways and this live event. And you posted a couple months ago that you were going to do this fundraiser with hats and sweatshirts, but it seems like there's like hundreds of them. Has it gone differently than you planned? And has this thing kind of taken off? Let me ask this more clearly. I'm the longest winded.
No, you're good. Asker. I was ready for it.
Did you always think it was going to be a blog or has it kind of taken a mind of its own?
It's taken on a mind of its own. And actually, it's funny, after this fundraiser, I'm sitting down. My brother runs the back end of it, thank goodness, because I don't know how to run a website. I really want to see, and if this doesn't happen, I don't, come at me, but I would love to see what more I can do with it. Can I make it into a nonprofit where giving back is the biggest focus of Approachable Outdoors? So I hope it becomes something bigger and keeps growing. And I love it. It's a passion project, but it is funny because I was thinking about these last few weeks. I'm now working 2 full-time jobs and I don't make any money off of Approachable Outdoors. In fact, like I put my, blood, sweat, and tears and quite a bit of money into it. And then anything proceed-wise, I'm donating completely back to the community with this fundraiser. So I'm exhausted. I would love to do more with it. Something's going to have to give at some point, whether I take a step back from that or I don't work in TV news in the future, but we'll see where it goes. I would love to keep growing it because that's my passion right now. I love the weather. I'm so passionate about it, but being able to create this community and give back in such a positive way has been really, really just filling up my bucket.
So cool.
Yeah.
Do you think you're going to be able to do the 3 a.m. forever?
No, not even close. It's so funny. I've just been having these conversations because I've been doing the morning show off and on for 11 years now. When I was here for the last year and a half is when it's really been full time. And now we're on air for 6.5 hours straight. I love doing the weather, but it takes such a toll on you, like mentally, physically. It's just a really, really hard shift. And, they do research on shift workers. They have shorter lifespans. They have different things that pop up. I have friends and anchors who work the morning show literally losing chunks of their hair because they're not sleeping enough. I mean, sleep at its core is what you need to basically survive. And so I don't know. I hope that I can do it as long as I can, and I will still be doing it for quite a bit longer. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, but it's tough. People who do it for a long time are pretty amazing.
I asked you at the head of this about the attrition and about people moving around because it's not just moving to a different market in the same job. And it seems like people leave to start families. There's been a lot of change in people's focus due to the pandemic, but I own a business I mentioned my business partner that was a producer. We have another program, a live stream that we do, and she's brought a bunch of guests on that worked with her. She worked in Las Vegas for a while. And we have all these people that we're working with that are former on-air talent that are now like speaking coaches for influencers, or specifically like you can be a full-time MC or you can do auctions. It seems like there's a lot of things that are like, because so many people want to have a podcast or a conference or retreats or all these things that entrepreneurs are doing now, it seems like broadcasters are in a really prime spot to coach people in speaking and presentation and then being hosts and MCs and auctioneers. Do you have any ambition to do things like that?
Yeah, actually, like one of my favorite things to do is help people feel really good speaking on camera. And so right now that capacity is when someone comes in to be interviewed, taking that minute to get to know them, to make them feel like really great. I used to host a lifestyle show in Minneapolis for 3 years. I do 5-6 interviews in an hour, and you had 90 seconds good and feel comfortable. And that was the best. When they got done and they felt really good, that's when I knew I did my job well. No, I mean, media coaching would be very high at the top of my list because it's not that hard once you figure out how to be on TV to sell your product without sounding like a commercial. It's the people who come in and they've got these, and I've seen it before, PR teams coaching them, like say your address, say your exact tagline, make sure you do it. And then I would come in and be like, hey, by the way, you don't need to worry about any of that. Just be you, and being you and coming across genuine is what's going to sell this product, not getting every single piece of information out. I'm like, I will get that part out. So it's fun. I'm very passionate about it. So I really hope that that's down the line for me and not at 3:00 in the morning too.
So for those of us Coloradans and beyond, let's not talk about climate change, but what's the hot goss on this winter? Do we got a Nino or something? Are we expecting snow? Last year it ended really early. We had record high temperatures here in Colorado. Are you seeing anything on the horizon?
So let me start by...
Ooh, like that metaphor. That was great.
Yeah, I like it. I hate long range forecasting. It's just not very reliable. But with that in mind, the last 2 years have been a La Nina year, and this is a third rare triple dip La Nina year. And so it is looking like we would trend a little bit warmer and maybe a little bit drier again. That being said, our mountains are starting off really strong, already better than last year. I mean, it's been really good. And we've got another storm system moving in for Thursday, possibly next week as well. But it's just so hard to say one way or another. But I do anticipate that if it's like the last two, and it's on trend with the La Nina and what that typically looks like for Colorado, it'd be a little warmer.
Couple of questions I always ask everybody, something about Kylie. What is something that you like to do? Are you a reader? Are you a show binger? What do you do in your free time when you're not outdoors?
Oh, my free time. I have not had any of that lately. I think for me, it's just spending time with like friends and family. Like really quality time. I'm notoriously a really bad texter because I am going. And then when I'm with people, I'm with you. Like I'm sitting there, I'm not on my phone. But I'm a big foodie. I was a restaurant reporter for 3-4 years. Haven't been able to do as much lately. So I get to do a ton of really fun food events. And then I love the theater. I'm at Broadway shows every time they're in town. I used to do show reviews, and it's such a passion of mine. I grew up in theater. And so that's really fun to get to go and do too.
What's your favorite show?
Growing up, it was Rent. I was that kid. I loved Rent. Rent.
Oh my! Literally,
I know. I was totally that like nerdy theater kid. But you know what? One surprised me is Beautiful, the Carole King musical.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you haven't seen it. Most people probably wouldn't even think to buy tickets for it. And I went with on a media night or something a long, long time ago. And I knew every single song and was so blown away by the story. I've really loved lately. And I just went to this for the Temptations too. They're doing a lot of Broadway shows on these old groups and older artists. And it's all about their origin and their background and how they came up in the industry. And so I love those. I think those are probably my top ones right now. I loved Miss Saigon. That one blew me away. Oh, Moulin Rouge. That one was incredible. Anyone would like Moulin Rouge, not even like us nerdy theater kids.
Well, it seems like you have to be into one of the classic ones.
Yeah.
Like Phantom people normally aren't Rent people, and Rent people normally aren't Oklahoma people.
Yeah, I love...
You seemed like a Rentie to me, but you never know.
I mean, I am. I love Phantom of the Opera, though. That was my very first show I used to listen to on, like, my dad's... I would steal his cassette tapes, like, we're talking way back in the day, and listen to Phantom of the Opera and just fell in love with it.
I always really liked Music Man, and now Hugh Jackman's in it.
Okay.
But I didn't get to go down to New York when I was just up there. But
you like musicals?
That one's a banger. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been here.
It's great. I mean, the Buell Theater is stunning, and they always do such a good job. The touring casts are incredible.
Here's the thing that I ask at the end of all my podcasts.
Okay.
It's a 3-part question, and it's very Kylie, very personality. If you could do any job in the world for one day, is there something that you always thought you wanted to be, like an astronaut or something weird? Astronaut's not weird, but...
No, I know what you're saying. It was a marine biologist. I wanted to like study whales and, like the ocean. When I was out on Cape Cod, I studied a little bit of marine biology out there. And if I were to go a different direction in life, I think that would be something that would have been really fun to do.
Well, You sort of ruined the series of questions.
Why?
But wait. Well, we'll go from a practical standpoint though.
Oh.
The second question is, if you had to go back to college and go in a different direction, is there another industry that you think you would have been really good at?
Any industry other than broadcasting. I don't recommend anyone go into broadcasting. It is a terrible, terrible business. I could do it differently. I'd for sure study a lot of business. I really wish, and I still, like, one of my things I would like to do is get an MBA. I think that would be really fun. But yeah, I definitely wish that I had studied business or studied something where I felt like I actually learned. So meteorology, I feel like I learned a lot. Journalism degree, I didn't really feel like I learned a ton, to be honest. You learn that in your internships and whatnot. So yeah, I wish I just studied either something very, very practical or totally impractical and just learned a lot of cool stuff.
Okay, so the third one is the 50,000 foot. You win the lottery or something. I feel like bad things always happen to those people. But it's $2 billion right now.
Yeah.
So you get bestowed a whole bunch of money and you can do anything you want, but you have to work. And it can't be like just donating or running a foundation or something. Is there like a big job that you wished you owned a Formula One car racing team, or you were a movie producer or something? I just projected mine on you, but
those are very cool. I think that, or I've always wanted to run. So I'm a big reader. I have not been reading much lately because I've just been so busy. I need to find a way to get back to it. But growing up, I hated when movies would ruin my favorite books. And so I always wanted to have the job where I was the one who made sure the books were turned into movies the right way and that they didn't screw up my favorite character and they didn't change it too much. So I would love, like, Reese Witherspoon, she runs, or used to run, I think she sold it, Hello Sunshine, in her production company. And so I think that would be like my absolute dream job. Make movies and films and short series based on the books that I love.
It's so fascinating. I mean, right now, Oprah and Reese are the only people that have the scale to pull that off. But the way that Reese Witherspoon built Hello Sunshine and sold it for $900 million is she built the Reese's Book Club, which has 2.4 million subscribers.
I'm one of them.
And she tells people, you know, all these readers are going to buy the book, but then that is stimulus of sales is going to make sure that the book is also in Target and Barnes & Noble and everywhere. And so she goes to the authors and says, I want to put your book in my book club. But if we do, you're probably going to get like 4 million copies sold in the first month. And so in exchange, I mean, she chooses ones that she likes, but almost all of them option their movie and TV rights to her in exchange for being in the book club. Oh. So that's why she's turned around and sold it to Netflix and Hulu and Apple and everyone. And then she stars in she does Big Little Lies and Little Fires Everywhere and The Morning Show. And they're all like full on Emmy contenders. Yeah. Like she manages the crap out of them, but she has built an empire from her book club, which is the coolest thing ever because they all trust her. And all these super talented female voices want to have somebody that is going to shepherd them into stardom. And she just turns around and like the next day calls Netflix, which is so neat. But if you have any reach out there and you want to be an influencer, start a book club. Don't start a podcast. It's way better. Or I guess maybe you have to have some way to promote the book club. But don't go into broadcast and get some fresh air outside. Kylie, where can everybody follow you, consume your media, support the cause? Yeah,
approachableoutdoors.com is the website. And then I'm just at Kylie Bearse. So Kylie spelled like Kylie Jenner does, Kylie. And then my last name, people never know how to pronounce it. I was actually very impressed. You're one of the few who got it right on the first try. But it rhymes with purse and it's spelled like bears with an E. Like that's how I was trying to explain it to people.
Right. And really, I forgot to ask, what are the causes that you're raising money for?
Oh, thank you for asking. A Precious Child. Are you familiar with them?
Mm-mm.
They are based out of Broomfield and they do amazing, amazing work. And, you know, they kind of help families and kids in any way that they need. So whether that is diapers and they just need basics, you know, get them off the ground running. They also do scholarships for sports, which they really believe in and they think is so important for high school. So they want to make sure that the families aren't choosing between putting dinner on the table and, you know, their kid playing basketball or something because they're not going to choose playing basketball. But it's so important to give kids that well-rounded education and that chance for the extracurriculars. One thing that I love that they do that I so took for granted growing up, when they told me this, I was like, any family there, when it comes down time for a kid's birthday, they give the family a present to give the kid, but then they also give them a cake mix and cake pan. so that they can.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's like things like that. They treat their clients with so much dignity, so the kids will never know. They'll never know that their parents didn't have a cake pan, didn't have the cake stuff to make it for them. And then I've been doing all these raffles for people who buy a hood or beanie. And one of the people who won a pair of hiking boots, which I was so stoked about for this, he lost his house in the Marshall Fire last year, and was like, they helped me. His wife was pregnant. They got his kid new toys immediately. I mean, I remember when that happened, it was within a week that they were set up, and they're not far from where the fire hit. They're really pretty close. So they just do amazing work, and I'm so honored to be able to give back. And this doesn't raise a ton of money, but hopefully it helps raise a little bit of awareness too, and makes a little bit of a difference.
so cool. I'll put that in the show notes too, and everybody out there can support Kylie. I don't know if this will be up before your event, but they can certainly go to Approachable Outdoors and order the next round of hoodies, because there's inevitably coming with plenty more. Kylie, thanks so much for being on, and we'll have to talk to you again soon.
Okay, that sounds great.